Great. So let's get going. Welcome to our webinar. This is on the top 5 2023 tech trends and its impact on testing. Introducing our speaker, Soumya Sridhamurthy. Soumya is a seasoned product quality leader working as a SDET manager at Litho. Soumya has 14 years of experience. She has worked in diverse solutions, ERP, SaaS, mobile apps, and web applications. She's an accessibility advocate and she's keen on driving inclusive software development. This is a very good initiative for sure. And Soumya is an active community builder. You'll find her on all major social channels for sure. Very renowned name. And she also runs APN's meetup group in Amsterdam. So welcome, Soumya. We are delighted to have you here and learn from you. So yeah, the stage is yours, Soumya. Take it over.
Thank you, Josley. That was a nice introduction of myself. Okay, let me try sharing my screen. Okay, so I guess, yeah. Josley, I hope you can see my screen that's shared.
Yes, it's full screen.
Yes, cool.
All good.
Okay, yeah. So first of all, thank you all for joining. And for some of you, I think it's pretty late at night and kind of dinner time as well. And for some of you, it can be very early in the morning and still you choose to join. So very humbled. Thank you for your time. So today, I'll be taking you through a 2023 technology trend and its impact on testing. I'll also let you know how you should consume this information and how it's going to help you. Not that you close your laptop today and tomorrow when you get back to work, everything you see falling apart in the world. No, that's not going to happen. But over a period of time, you see how changes are coming in terms of job requirement, in terms of skill set requirement, in terms of how teams are changing and strategic business initiatives. Everything is going to impact if you have a keen observation towards technology. So let's start off. Today, for the next 35 to 40 minutes, I'll talk about the present testing practices that's there and which you should be up and running. If you're new to the industry, please, this may help you to know what's the present requirement. Then we'll slowly touch base on the top 5 trend that I have been very keenly following and seeing industry change along with it and its impact on the software testing, of course, specific field. Every technology have a high impact on one particular field and people interested or related to that field can dive deeper. And for the last 10 minutes, we can take question and answers if you have any. So that's the plan for the next 40 minutes. Moving on to the next slide, which is a little bit about me because I'm the speaker. Introduction is already given, so I wouldn't take a lot of time. However, I just want to let you know my hobbies. I love gardening. I live in Netherlands, which is Amsterdam. So I hardly get 4 to 5 months of gardening time and then it's either raining or it's snowing. So yeah, I love that time of gardening. I go running across the canals of Amsterdam. That's my usual stress buster. I write a lot of blog articles. I have my own website where I try and put as many details possible. I love reading, absolutely no genre specified, anything that tickles my brain and I love reading, I just hop onto it and yeah, the book, I love books. That's about me. So moving on to the next one. Okay, so this is a kind of abrupt start after my introduction, but I didn't had any better way of starting my talk. So let me take you to the focus of a Scrum team. If you see the present agile mindset of software delivery and take any particular Scrum team, and in that Scrum team, a role of a test engineer, you see the focus has always been serving for the business functions, ensuring that the value is met, the value generation that the product team is trying to build for the end customer solving a real world problem is the ultimate focus. And we apply all the strategies and testing techniques to ensure that that is working fine. Whether we use test automation or we use exploratory testing, whatever the form it is, our main focus is always to ensure that the business functionality and everything around it is working intact when it comes to the Scrum team. But a product or an application, when we talk about, it involves much more than just that business functionality, right? You have a data governance, production performances and performance testing, security and accessibility. It can go beyond just a particular feature or a function. And depending on how big the organization is and how the teams are set up, the other peripheral tests that what we see is either it is outsourced to some other company like a consultancies. Most likely you see retail, e-commerce or the banking who rely on consultancies to provide the services for them. Or then you can see large organizations where you have guilds with the specific test engineers with their in-depth knowledge or technical idea about these specific testing, and they are included on a pro bono basis on a regular testing cycles to perform this testing, right? But you don't really see that performance testing as a core deliverable of a Scrum test engineer. In today's information that I'm trying to share, we'll touch base on all these things, and you see how it's trickling down, and the Scrum's testing space is getting crowded, and the expectation and a skill set from a Scrum test engineer is gonna blow up, and it's only going to grow. It's not gonna reduce. So you got to have a good understanding of exploratory testing, which is the must and should, the basis of all test automation, testing. And then on top of this is the synonymous with test automation. It is must and should. If you're a test engineer, the idea is at some point you're gonna pick it up. The early, the better. Test operations, these are like the hooks to ensure that the processes are taken care automatically. The tests are run, the Slack notifications are sent, and reliability, everything that comes around it is a part of your test automation. API tests, I'll park it for now because we have a lot to discuss about this, but this is the present need and is gonna stay for the next decade to come by. Documentation is as important because we live in a floating teams. We don't have the same test engineers or the same developers. We don't have a long living teams anymore, be it a managed services or a consultancies or a startups. Teams keep changing. So documentation is one thing which is here to stay, and the practice is also here to stay. So these are the present test practices, which is non-negotiable and non-contested against. So if you're a test engineer new to the industry, and ensure that you're touching on all these verticals and making yourself aware of it. If you're already in the industry, now is where the game is starting. If you're 5 years down in the industry, now it's like the need of the skill set is kind of skyrocketing. Okay, so having said that, now let's move to the first technology that I want to present to you guys. It is cloud computing. Of course, it's not something new. Things have been happening over a period of time already. This is not a new concept, but cloud engineering is something which has been growing year on year. And one event which has impacted this entire business to skyrocket is the COVID and the digital transformation process. Many brick and mortar companies or the businesses which relied on the physical form of business, they realized if they have to grow logarithmically, they have to fall back on cloud engineering. They have to fall back on presence in the internet. And that growth comes only, this growth is possible only if they are using cloud engineering as their drivers. And it was easier for them to hop onto the internet and make their business available only because of the presence of the cloud computing and everything that comes around it. When we speak about cloud computing a few years ago, for most of the people, it was only about application as a service. Like you have an application out there hosted on the cloud, go there, buy a license, use it based on the need, or close a subscription when you don't need it. That's how it was. But now the extent in which the cloud is offering is beyond the applications. The cloud services can be provided with platforms, integrations, service, desktop, everything that you see can be bundled and packaged and delivered to you already by some big players out there in the market. And you can just take this service, use it, utilize it as much you want, either expand it or reduce it and pay as per the consumption. So this is the market, and this market is growing steadily. You can see the impact of this cloud business almost in every domain, whether you talk about education, medical electronics, retail, which is an e-commerce, insurance, banking, ERP. ERP is like the big thing into it now, cloud. Most companies are moving from private to the hybrid and slowly to the public cloud. You see this is growing and it is still in its infancy stage. It has not even reached the maturity. So just imagine if these numbers reaches even the 50% of the market, that the developmental practices, the testing practices, everything is going to change. So is the skill set need in the market is going to change. So these figures, what you see, are in millions, and it's constantly increasing year on year. So now setting the background, moving ahead, there are 4 main verticals that this gets impacted with when it comes to the cloud engineering. If your company is not non-cloud yet, and they maintain their own servers. They are developing in a very traditional way. They decide to move ahead with the cloud, making use of cloud engineering, and they host their services on some cloud. The entire gamut of development and testing activity is going to change. The first vertical is heavily going to get impacted is the infrastructure and the environment. Next is the way we deal with transactional data. The fourth is a co-creation, and 5 is integration. Let us see each of this in detail. So when it comes to the infrastructure and if you see the infrastructure and the environment, if I remember 10, 15 years ago, we used to have a long living test environments. We used to go to the IT, let them know that this is the type of modules we are using. We need this integration, this type of a DB, that capacity, this LAN. We used to chalk out the entire plan, set up an entire test environment ground up, and then it used to cost a lot of money for us to keep this up and running. Now, 15 years fast forward, today in my organization, every day we can spin up a new test environment on just one button click and tear it down whenever we don't want it. And we pay only to the amount that we use. So the capability of test environment and the way how it will be spun up and torn down is a game-changing activity. So how is this impacting on your testing? See, because you don't have a long-living test environments anymore, you don't have to deal with stale data anymore. You don't have to tell everybody and warn them, please don't log in into the test environment. We are testing, we are doing performance testing, we are doing that testing. Please don't change these details. I remember when I was working in one of the ERP companies, when we created test data, we used to put, please don't delete this data. Long descriptions we used to put to ensure people don't mend that data. Today, there is no need. At any point in time, I can spin up a new environment, load in the test data, perform any sort of testing, and then get out without having to bother or being dependent on any operations team. So this is one impact. Now, as a test engineer, if your company is making use of this cloud platform and you are in it, this is something new that you get to do and learn. So there's a first impact and the reduced dependency on the operations team to do things for you. The second one is the data, the transactional data. Data is a fuel. We all know it. Every business, every company, every organization is working in and around the data. And we are living out of data. It can be an application, it can be a form, it can be details about a product. Everything is about the data, right? So when we have the details being stored up somewhere in the cloud by a service provider, the security, how secure is this data comes into the picture. There was a time when a specific set of test engineers used to perform this security tests on this data. They were checking how the DB is designed, how the calls are made, what type of calls are made, and all that sorts of things which Scrum testers weren't involved. When I explain all these things, please keep the startups aside, because startup is a very different environment. They don't have luxury of resources. If they're a small organization with like 100 to 150 people, they kind of have to manage and merge everything within their ecosystem. So you have to keep them as an exception. But in general, if it's a mid-sized organization with nearly 500 employees and above and large organizations, you can kind of imagine and relate to what I'm trying to tell you, that this data and the security of this data was performed by a specific set of knowledge workers and not Scrum test engineers. It wasn't very much a need or expected kind. But going forward, if you're working in the cloud, if you're working in the applications where you're utilizing the cloud engineering, then pretty much you can see that this comes under your purview. And also your test approach, your test automation approach should also revolve around this concept. So that's one of the impact that you can see. The third part is a co-creation. There is an increased amount of integrations happening, which means when there was a time when businesses were trying to develop everything in-house. Okay, I want to kill my competitor, so let me bring up everything in-house. I don't have to leverage what my competitor has to create. But right now, if you see the business very closely, people have realized only co-creation is a way to move forward, which means you have something, I have something, let's join our hands and bring a better value out of it. Cloud is one platform where businesses are able to leverage this in depth And just like how you go a sneaker shopping or your clothes shopping, today you can go to modules or services shopping in the cloud, pay for it, buy it, integrate these things, and boom, you're ready to go into your business. That's how many digital transformation processes are kicking apart, where brick and mortar companies coming onto the internet and establishing their businesses. It has become that easy. When that happens, the exchanging of information should be seamless, and there is a user experience coming in. So there's a heavy use of cookies, feature flags, tokens, everything that is being used. So which means as a test engineer, you get to see the working in and around the cookies. When you test with the APIs, the data being exchanged, the session being maintained, the development framework being a front end or the back end, you got to have a very good idea how this data is being exchanged, so that there's a seamless experience generated even when a user moves from one application to another or from one service to the another. So you see in your testing, this will have a greater impact, and these technologies are going to grow even further. It's going to condense even further. So this will be one of the impact in your own day-to-day testing activity. The last one is, of course, the integrations, which no topic can go without the notice of API. You pretty much can see this in all my slides, because they are the basic drivers of all innovations that is happening, irrespective of which vertical it is. The increased demand in APIs, you can see over the period of time. There are companies who are selling APIs as a product. So if you're one among those, like Stripe is one example, which is a payment company. So there are many companies who are selling APIs as a product. So if you are one of the test engineer in some of those companies, you can see the increased demand in need of technical understanding, how these APIs work. And you have to go beyond testing 200, the way responses are being packed, how the HTTP protocols are there, HTTPS protocols are there, and what goes beyond the network layer. These will become the need and understanding requirement for a test engineer who's testing those applications. And integrations are here to live. Going forward, you can see all applications, all solutions work only based on integrations. So you got to get your API testing game a little more stronger and harder. So this is the first thing about cloud engineering, and these are the impacts. Moving to the next one. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you don't. And for some of you, this may be the first time that you're hearing. For the benefit of doubt, to establish a common understanding, super apps. Super apps, mostly consumer-driven market would have heard this, but let's see. So super apps is nothing but today, at any point in time, if you open your mobile, you would see at least 50 to 60 apps providing different sorts of need for you, like a cab booking, a restaurant booking, education, videos or streamings, and maybe gaming, banking. You may have like 50 to 60 apps installed on your mobile phone. But there's a revolution happening in the app market, where you just have to install one app, and then all other applications are just available in that one app. So you don't have to shift between one to another app. And change the experiences. When I close down a chat application and go to order a food, the user experience, there is a glitch, there is a disturbance, because that screen and the way I interact with that app is different as compared to this app where I am trying to order a food, sorry. So now the industry or the organizations are trying to reduce this glitch and give a seamless experience to the user. So super apps is a way forward. It's like, we can say it as an Amazon of apps. You just go into this app and you find everything there. You can send a mail, you can transfer money, you can book a cab, you can order food. You can even create your content, post it on Instagram or a Twitter or anything. So it's just one destination for all of these things. This is a super app. Now, some of you may not have heard of it, but many of you may have. Some characteristics to notice about this super app is they promise the digital consolidation. Like I said, they don't want to create this glitch of moving from one app to another with a different user experiences. So they want to provide everything in one place. This is mostly driven by the convenience seekers, which is like the present generation and the Gen Z, who's like the generation after us. It's heavily driven by them because they don't have time shifting from one app to another. They want to keep this and one place, boom, everything getting done. And also you see this growth happening in the consumer markets like US, UAE, Asia, mostly India, Korea, Singapore, China. These are the places where you see these super apps picking up and many innovations happening in this space. Slowly, other markets may also join this bandwagon pretty soon. One example is a WeChat, where you find in China, where everything is in one place. One app from India is a Tata Neu, and you may find many also picking up. But slowly you see this is growing. So what is its impact that we can expect going forward is the rise in the mobile app testing. So all those test engineers who have been heavily banking on the web application testing, please also invest time in understanding mobile testing. It's a different ball game altogether. It's just not similar. Maybe there are some parts which overlaps on a web application testing, but mobile apps with the increased use of smartphones reaching even the rural part of the areas and everyone hopping onto the applications or the mobile apps, this is the future. The consumption, I think I read in one of the surveys where the consumption of web application is slightly dipping and people are shifting towards mobile, irrespective of what application it is. However, there are some exceptions like high density image processing, or somebody who's working on contents, or safety critical applications. They are still heavily dependent on web applications, but majority of them are already shifting. Mostly the consumers of retail, like mostly banking, e-commerce, education, these are the crowd which is already hopped on to mobile. So you can see the increased demand for the mobile app testing. So invest time in learning the mobile application and mobile app testing, because it's not just application, it also involves hardware behind it. So this is gonna pick up. You can see a steady growth of 20% year on year. And there are so many things I have mentioned in this slide, but I want to draw your attention to the evolving front end. When we go for the super apps and you have multiple apps interacting with each other, the app which is giving you the platform to hold all other apps should be strong enough or should be stable enough to share the information across apps, which again, data security comes into the picture. And most importantly, the data protection. I'll come to that point, but evolving front end, if you see the React.js, which was one of the front end frameworks, what it was a few years ago to what it is today, it has changed drastically. It has improved in its capacity a lot more. So is Vue.js, and so is many other technologies which is coming in. So the front end is getting more stronger day by day. The understanding, the usage of this front end testing is also going to evolve from a mobile app perspective and little less from the web application perspective, but mostly the high impact is through the mobile apps. Yes, the data security. Depending on which continent or which land you come from or you belong to or where you're testing the app, the data governance and data security will become a part of a Scrum testing activity. The value of a test engineer increases when you're able to proactively add data during the development and let them know how this data should behave, how long this should reside, how a soft deletion should be performed. When an archiving is done, I know how part of it should come from a product owner, but as a test engineer, you always have, there is always a need that you understand this whole concept, and you proactively add details while there is development happening. And the engineers who can bring this on to the very early part of the development will always have an edge as compared to others. So Data Security, Data Protection Act is something, wherever you belong, please invest some time reading. I belong in EU, so I kind of invest a lot of time in understanding how GDPR works, how this GDPR translates to my application during my testing. It makes a lot of difference and it adds a lot of value for your career as well. So this is one thing which is going to trickle down into the Scrum team test engineer's job on a day-to-day basis. Moving to the next one, which is a robotic process automation. I know this is the most misunderstood, misrepresented. It aches me to the core when people talk about RPA and they relate RPA with the Selenium or Cypress and Playwright. Please know, for heaven's sake, it's not. It's a process automation, not an application automation. Okay, the term robotic is a little misleading. There is no robots involved. It is simply an automation which is being performed like an end-to-end process, right from the beginning till the end. You make use of machines to already do the process for you without any human intervention is called robotic in their sense, but what we can also call it as automation, but not application automation. So let's understand this by an example. In a traditional setup, if I had to apply for a college, I fill in my details, I attach my photo, I apply for the college, and then there is a team which sits who perform this data collection, who scrapes through the email, extracts this detail, put it in the database or pass to the respective departments. And then there is a data governance team whose whole job is to scrape through every day, generating the logs to see which data is expiring, which data is still valid, which data we have to delete, with whom we still need to take permission. Because when it comes to data, now there are more stringent rules and more stricter laws that has come into the picture. You simply cannot keep somebody's personal details into the databases for however long we want. As long as the candidate is associated with the college or still there is something going, you're allowed to, and if they provide the consent, if not, you might have to delete this detail. Correct. And if there are details which are expired, then there's a communication team who used to sit and then call these candidates and say, hey, we have these details. Can we still keep it? Are you okay with it? And if they say they're not okay, you're bound to delete it, not just in your database, but all the physical copies or the copies that is present in everybody's laptop. Correct. So this is an entire process that we can think of. One easy thing that you can relate to is one of the HR process. If you have applied for a company, a job, you can see mails coming to you after 6 months that we have your details, can we still keep, right? That also similar resonates with this. But right now with the RPA, everything is eliminated. You still have only two parties involved. One is the college, which is, and then one is the candidate. So when a candidate applies, everything is automatically handled. The data collection, the log generation, the deletion of the data, notifications being sent, emails being triggered for the respective parties or the departments, everything that happens automatically. So these type of applications are called robotic process automation. And these are not something that can be handled by your Selenium or Cypress. So RPA is not test automation. It is totally different type of an automation. However, this may have a direct impact on the way you test these applications. So how is this going to impact? The first one is interoperability. Because in order to achieve this seamless process, right from the beginning till the end, there are multiple applications being involved, not just, there may be a ERP being involved to store the data, then there may be some other companies' mailbox being utilized. I do not want to name any specific company name, so I'm trying to keep it as generic as possible. So when you have multiple applications from non-homogeneity, that's what we call different applications from a different platform, from a different service providers, then the interoperability comes into the picture. People who come from an ERP background or who are from the large organization who deal with data day in, day out, they may already be in this space of interoperability, like a different version of DB and different version of UI, yet the application should still work the way it is intended to. Sometimes the users upgrade only UI or they upgrade only backend, yet the application should still work, whatever the combination it is. That's what we call interoperability. This has been restricted to specific space until now, which is mostly ERP sector or oil and gas and constructions and engineering. So these were the platforms where this was restricted to, but now you see it is growing. It is growing beyond certain domains, and it is reaching like healthcare, banking, sales, marketing and content generation. So these are the applications where you already see this interoperability taking space, and it is going to come out big time into all other domains. And you see yourself getting involved into it slowly in a year or two. That interoperability, at different tech stacks, different versions, different upgrades. That's one thing. Data security, can't stress enough. Again, when you have non-homogeneous applications working, exchange of tokens, you have to ensure the authentication, which mostly driven by the business layer, which is your API. So this is why I said API is something that is here to stay. They are the major drivers of all innovations happening. So if you have been investing yourself a lot into the front-end testing, I wouldn't discourage that, but I also highly encourage that you enter into the business layer, identify yourself how to do API testing, and all the nuances that goes into the API testing. So this is, again, going to grow. The fourth and the most important thing that RPAs have given rise to is low code, no code. I wouldn't give all credit to RPA, but because I also want to credit AI, which is my next topic. Low code, no code tools are growing in the market simply because the exponential growth of a business is asking faster implementations and faster go-to market. If this is required, there is always the gap for the skill workers in the market, knowledge workers in the market, and not always you can keep investing time in up-ramping them or upskilling them into different technologies. Today I may be in one technology, tomorrow I may go to some other, and not every time you can invest resources and the time into upskilling them. So low-code, no-code tools provide one difference, that you don't have to invest a lot of time in upskilling. It still performs what you want with a lesser, with a reduced effort of upskilling, and yet it performs the same task as you have been performing with all other tools. Well, ACCELQ is one good example of low-code, no-code tool where they have things. Well, I will park it and I go to the next one because the most infusion comes through the AI. So the next topic is the AI. No slides, podcasts, or webinar go without mentioning of the AI. We all know. I won't get into the part of explaining everything with regards to AI because, yeah, it's a buzz and everybody is following. So I will save time in not getting into specificities. But I want to draw your attention to the two main things. One is the application of AI has been increased in these two fields. One is a service operation optimizations. Mostly people who are in the managed services companies can relate to this. Managed service companies like TCS, Infosys, CTS, Accenture. These are the big managed service companies. There are many other companies also. You can see the adoption of AI and the innovations happening highly in this space, and also many conversations being triggered. Most of these services are infused with the AI to ensure there is more personal services being provided for their partners. But the second one, which is a creation of new AI-based products, is what going to impact you on a day-to-day basis. You may see new test automation tools coming in with more AI infused, self-learning, code refactoring, self-healing. This is possible by continuous learning, which they do through deep learning and the machine learning concepts. I am not an expert in AI or machine learning, so I wouldn't go deeper into talking any of these jargons. But I know for a fact that these are the techniques that is being put behind in making this product work and learn. So which means you can see the growth of low-code, no-code tools being adopted faster in the market. So you may see Selenium or Cypress and Playwright, and then also other low-code, no-code tools being mentioned in the same cadre and cadence. This is one of the growing aspects which can impact on your test automation. So if there's anyone who's thinking, okay, it's too difficult for me to invest my time in learning Selenium or Cypress, there's still a bright side. Invest your time in learning a low-code, no-code tools. All you want to know is the working concepts behind the testing, and not specificities of how I should create an interface, how I should call a protected method or instance testing. It keeps you away from all of it, and yet it helps you build what you have to with a lesser effort. So keep your hopes high. The impact of AI on a test automation tools have been on, like I said, code refactoring. It helps because it does a deep learning. It keeps learning itself and provides you with recommendations of how you can improve. There is one tool which I have worked with, which goes and scrapes through the user, how the user makes use of our application, the footprints of the users on our application, and it feeds back to me as an information that which part of my application is heavily used and what scenarios I should be automating. that tool is gonna tell me that these are heavily used. There is a footfalls of 7,500 today. So I guess this is gonna be mostly used. So ensure that this part of application is stable enough. Can you automate that? So this is happening because there is an analytics, there is a constant analytics, constant learning, and user experiences being captured as a part of AI and auto recommendations. And also code refactoring, like I said, it gives me auto suggestions that you have implemented so and so, but this seems to be flaky. Would you like to consider something else? And also provide me with suggestions. There is a tool which can do this. So when this is happening, it's easier for me as a manager to upskill my team because there is auto recommendations coming. Is this the one-stop solution? I wouldn't really say that, but it's a very good solution for someone who is starting afresh in the industry and want to make a career. And everyone gets a chance to be part of it. Self-healing is something which is also helpful. DOM has always been a problem for most of us because UI keeps changing and automation keeps failing simply because UI is changing. Self-healing is one boon from AI which helps scraping through the UI and then refactoring the DOM elements for the communication so that every time you run, it is ready with the element with its own mapping. I think even ACCELQ, I have used ACCELQ, and I think ACCELQ uses more than one way of DOM scraping and selection. CSS, XPath, everything it does all by itself. If one thing is not working, it automatically shifts to the other. It automatically identifies what is the most stable way of dealing with the DOM element. So these are some of the examples of how AI-infused automation tools can help you on a day-to-day basis. Let's come to the last one, which is a sustainable technology. You may not have heard of this, or some of you, but I guess very rarely. Sustainable technology is one thing which is picking up in the market, but because AI has covered so many things already, it's right in front of us, masking so many other innovations happening backside in the market. Sustainable technology will be the next boom. You can see this, or you can get to hear in many podcasts, conversations, news, case studies, and articles going forward, because there's a lot of research being happening on what type of programming languages you have to use. How should your DB deal with when you're inserting a data or removing a data? What is an efficient way of editing or doing a crude operation so that it consumes less power? These are some of the researches which is already happening. But please keep an eye, because it's a definite game changer. The way we utilize some of the tech stack is gonna change. There will be some improvements that we can see. So I completely skipped because I was like totally enthusiastic about talking about this. So the e-waste and CO2 emissions and energy consumptions are the main drivers behind the sustainable technology. This has been irking us. Internet space is being too crowded now. There's a lot many people using internet, and the other side of the internet sits the servers. It's not just the physical waste, but also the energy consumption and the electricity that is used, and the processing power, the AC maintenance, everything that comes into the picture is just not sustainable. We cannot do any of the blockchain or cryptocurrencies or metaverse or IoT, whatever we talk about, which require high processing speeds and high processing power, cannot sustain the way we are. The next generation will never have anything left behind for them. So sustainable technology is one thing that you can see picking up. Like I said, there are various initiatives that companies are doing, many new startups and many new VC funded startups, which you can see in the Bay Areas popping up, who are coming up with the surveys of which is the best tool, which is the best tech stack, which is the best programming languages that the company have to use, so that there is energy efficiency and reduce the e-waste, not just physically, but also from the carbon emissions perspective. So this is a slide where I have put where you can see the impact. If you ask me, Soumya, there is a direct impact for me tomorrow, you may not, but this is one aspect where you had to sit on it and wait for like 5-6 years. If you're new to this industry, 10 years down the line, when you reach a management position, you got to have a say in this. So it is important that you track this history and learn. If you're already in the industry and then you're pretty much an experienced professional, you can see this coming in as a part of your conversation on a day-to-day regular basis in your maybe with your management calls. that we are shifting from this tech stack or from this service provider to that service provider. And the way we are processing the data, it may be vertical injection of the data or a horizontal pulling of the data from the database is being changing, which means it also directly or indirectly impacts your testing pattern. And the need of technical understanding during testing is just increasing when these technologies comes into the picture. So having said that, I guess we are almost at the end of our talk. So summing up, 5 things that we discussed today was first is cloud engineering, super apps, robotic process automation, AI, the AI infused tools and its impact on testing. And finally is a sustainable technology, which you may not see something happening right away, but this will be your future. 5-6 years down the line, many things can impact because of the sustainable technology. So I guess I have successfully rained down all the points I want to in one breath. Let me stop here to take any questions if you have. Yeah, I'll be happy to take any questions if you have.
Yes, Soumya, excellent presentation, man. Lots of takeaways, must say, and really interesting new things, specifically super apps and sustainable technology, which is now triggering my mind to a different extent. At this moment. So I'll take some questions that have come along the way and some questions which have been popping up in my mind as well. So start with ones which have been asked there. So any current super app examples that you have in App Store where the community can go and just experience about it, or is it something which is still not there?
There are super apps, like I said. The first one was a WeChat, which is like the first one and which is making big name. But I guess it's the China's app and we don't have it. If you're from India, you may not see this. But I think I guess you can check out Tata Neu. And it's mostly for the Tata ecosystem. It can be Titan or their jewelry. What's that? What's the jewelry business that Tata have? So all those ecosystems are linked together into one platform. So that's Tata Neu. Maybe you can try that. There is one other app, but again, that is from either Singapore or South Korea. I don't see much from an Indian continent. Sorry, don't kill me. From that particular space. You can just try Tata Neu, Revati.
So on top of that, there's just a follow-up question. Like do you think that the front-end technologies is going to change? Like, can traditional tools or APM support this kind of technologies, or what should testers, strive to keep in mind?
Yeah. So when the front end evolves, so is the front end supporting tools and technologies is going to evolve. If you're using Appium, you can see the capability of Appium is also going to change along with this framework, hand in hand. It cannot stay behind. So if you see front end improving or its capabilities improving, you can also see Appium improving in tandem with this. So, and you can also see new tools and technologies coming in, which can support and can be more stronger than Appium. I don't know. I'm just guessing. So yeah, it will change in tandem.
So the other question you said, the activities, and when you started off your presentation, activities such as security, performance, they are kind of taken responsibility by a dedicated team of testers or a center of excellence, right? How important do you think is this trend of the full stack tester going, right? How important do you think as testers it's essential to know even these aspects like security, performance, etc.?
Very much. The way I see, and I have been reading articles and I've closely following industry, it's no more novice. So when I joined industry back in 2008, all the expectation I had was I sit, I test, I know the application, I am good in my domain. But if you see today who's entering the industry, they're supposed to know the domain. They're supposed to know first great understanding of testing, no compromise on that. You should know how and what you can apply and how you can communicate and collaborate with your team to do testing. That is basic. But when a test engineer is called, test automation resonates along with it. It is understood that when I'm hiring for a test engineer, he or she should have some knowledge in test automation, right? So it is going to grow. If you ask for a full stack tester, yes, this is going to be, picking up. You don't see this changing right tomorrow, but you definitely can see in next 5 years, the ask of a test engineer will be catapulted to a different level altogether.
Awesome. So yeah, Rizwana also mentions in the chat about, reading an article on sustainable technology in from Amazon. And I'd like to little bit elaborate on this because I think it's very essential. And I think this might change the way we test and perceive and optimize our products as well. So from a tester standpoint, what do you think needs to change when testers look at products in angles of building it as a sustainable technology? What
Very
do you
good
see there?
question. Yeah, so it's a very good question. Like, let me take an example of cloud engineering. In cloud engineering, I spoke about spinning up an environment anytime you want. But if I am not responsible enough to close this environment, firstly, it's going to cost me. And secondly, it's an unnecessary waste of service being up and running in the server, which is it's an added waste. The second thing, we may be using the desktop or a laptop every day to work. And many of us may not have, including me, I have a very bad habit of not logging off or shutting down my system. It's very bad. I'm trying to work on it very hard. So there will be applications where it does auto log off, auto switch off to save the battery and energy to live a sustainable living. So people who are involved in hardware testing can see this coming into life. So when it comes to your test approach, this is one part of it which can slowly sneak into your job profile and understanding of how a hardware should work in tandem with the desktop applications to ensure you can save energy, be it a loaded battery or the electricity or the solar. It can be any of those things. So these are some of the examples that I can mention.
Great. So you mentioned about in RP about low-code, no-code tools. So there's a question from Bharat asking, what should be the success criteria while evaluating the use of low-code, no-code tools in your project?
Evaluating criteria for low-code, no-code?
Success criteria.
Success criteria. I wasn't prepared for this question, Bharat, so please give me a moment to gather some thoughts so that I can answer you. See, any tool when you implement, first is always maintainability, correct? First, of course, we think of coverage. Coverage is a non-contested thing. We all need coverage. But the first thing that you always look forward for maintainability, how easy it is for you to grow along with it and grow old along with it. We get into frameworks or the tools because there is hype. And then because we cannot keep up with a skill, we cannot rehire a resource with a similar skill, it kind of falls apart and it's of no use. Time and again, many teams do this. So if it is easier to maintain, learn, and keep up with it for a long term, this is one of the biggest success factor you can think. Second thing trickles down to how compatible it is to your working environment. Right from the pricing. If the tool is way too priced, firstly, your team itself does not agree for its investment. And secondly, how easy it is to structure. See, if I talk about an ERP application or a banking application, these are super complex applications because there is a lot of if, else, buts, and country relevant categorizations and functionalities, and so many translations and so many things getting from a complexity wise, it grows. If you're having a tool which cannot manage and handle this complexity in a simpler way, you're already lost it. So this is one other factor you can consider for your success. How easy is it to handle a most complex application? So I can go on, keep raining on, but I think these two things is the most important thing that you can keep in mind.
Perfect answer. Yeah, we talked a lot about, and you mentioned a lot about this. And I think in the start of this slide, you did mention automation is something mandate, but still has a question like, having said all this, where does the future hold for automation?
Sorry, can you rephrase the question for me, Josie?
So Sunil asked, where does the future hold for automation? in the coming years?
That becomes the basic need. So automation becomes synonymous with test engineering, and it is going to stay. The capability of testing tools is going to grow beyond. There will be sneaking in of low-code, no-code tools. You can see more and more companies adopting low-code, no-code tools. Most specific, especially the companies who are into digital transformations, companies who are not pure tech breed, they are the ones who will be adopting low-code, no-code, because it's easier for them to maintain, grow, and manage things with that. So test automation will be there, and it is going to grow. But how this test automation perform today to the 10 years down the line, that is a question that we have to ask ourselves. Will it be there? Yes, definitely it will be there.
Sure. Yeah. Test automation is not running away, definitely. And use it, to assist your work, definitely. And that's not going to change for a long time, I would perceive. So there's one question from Mastan. He talks about self-healing. When something self-heals, it actually changes and, proceeds on the thing. So his concern is more about, shouldn't it actually fail and give a bug or report a bug rather than proceeding and going ahead? Like, what's your take on this?
Yeah. So when we interact with when we develop a test automation suite, right, and you identify an element to interact with, you have intentionally chosen that element to interact with. And if that element is available, but it's got masked for some reason, or it got changed for some reason, or if it is masked, then yes, even the low-code, no-code tool is it's going to make it fail because it's getting masked. It's not being interactable, But if it is available, but its location is changed, or its ID got changed for some reason, or that CSS selector has got changed, like I said, there is more than one way of interacting with that element. If all the 7 ways are failing, that means seriously there is some issue in that the whole screen. Either the screen itself has changed a lot, or there's something really dire thing that has happened for it, then it's anyways going to fail, no matter which tool you're using. But if the element is there, but it's been placed for something else, or something got updated because a new element came in, then the low-code, no-code, or the self-healing part of it is just going to recognize it. It was in the top right of the corner, now it's in the bottom right of the corner, and we can still continue to... So this is for the functional testing. Now, your question mostly relates to the visual testing. So it was in the top right of the screen, but now in the bottom right of the screen. Now this comes under the visual testing, which should not be done in your functional testing, but you need to do your visual tests, making use of Chromatic or Percy or many other visual regression tools that is available.
Right, perfect. And
I hope to have answered your question.
Yeah, hopefully, Mastan, maybe you can add a follow-up if you want. And I think all of the tools also do let you know that, hey, that something has been self-healed. They give you that indicator as well for you to judge whether it's a false positive or what exactly has been healed. So look out for those traits, when you're using such kind of features. So yeah, we'll take the last 2 questions. This one is from Rizwana. She thinks that most of the QA roles now are dissolving. As we're moving into the class infra, and most of the responsibilities getting assigned to BA. I mean, it's a very common question, like, will the role of testers stay? It's kind of, if you want to put it collectively, what's your take on this? Like, responsibilities shifting to BA, how should testers fit in with this change?
Firstly, roles and responsibility, assigning it to BA, that itself is wrong. I think the company's strategy of handling the team itself is somewhere getting derailed. No one can replace a test engineer and at any point in time. But if I had to talk only about the test engineer's role, like I said, it has been more demanding than what it was. When I started, the demand was what it was to what it is today when I hire a test engineer, simply because the innovations and the technology is like shape-shifted the industry in various forms. So the demand is more. So if a company is moving all the testing to BA, first of all, BA role doesn't exist, and it's mostly into this consulting businesses where this BA role exists, where they bridge the gap between your customers and the product team, which in the product companies, it's filled up by product managers or the product owners role. But that is very wrong to do that. And sooner or later, your management is going to realize it's not going to fulfill the aspect of it. And there will be a course correction being done. But if you ask me, being in this industry and looking forward, test engineering role will always be there. But the demand for this role in terms of skill set will be huge. I hope I answered your question, Rizwan.
Awesomely said. Thank you. So we are on top of the hour. Soumya, as we part ways and end this webinar, I'd like to just put you on the last question, which is probably useful for everyone. Like, how should testers keep themselves relevant for this future of tech? Maybe a quick summary.
Read everything and everything that's possible. Social media is a great place, but it is also a place which can make you sick. So the information that you're trying to consume, please pick and choose and follow the people who are giving you genuine information, not someone who's like provocating you to fight against some role change or name change or anything. It's none of these things are going to happen. It may serve them personally, but please invest your time in reading case studies, follow Stanford HBU articles. All these are free. Please follow the technical news as much possible. If you want to stay closer to the industry, be very active in the communities. There are many communities and such webinars which can be very helpful. People like many of us come here to share our experiences and voice out our opinion. Please take this back, process it, and put your own thought process to come up with your own opinions. This is very important. So please read as much possible. And yeah, be very active in the industry while you read and consume information. I hope I made sense in my answer.
Yes, of course, keep learning and keep reading. So that's the take from today's webinar, and lots of ideas floating in for everyone to learn, explore, and see how you can change. So thank you, Soumya. It's been really great to have you here, help the community grow as well as learn in the process. So thank you, and thank you everyone.